All right. Hey, hello everyone. Myself is ManasSatpathi. I'm a principal TAM in AWS, and I have Sandeep Mohanty, solution architect in AWS as well. We are going to talk about how you can shift left in your application security testing using AWS Security Agent. So we'll start with examine the critical challenges today our organizations are facing. Especially with the AI-driven tools, all the coding is so fast, you need to keep up with your security testing as well. So that's kind of one of the major things that we are going to say today. What are the challenges and how AWS Security Agent is going to give you a solution. And then we will introduce AWS Security Agent in detail and its core capabilities. Sandeep will walk through us that how it will provide you a kind of application and context aware testing that you have been missing with your existing traditional tools. And also he will talk about some real world use cases that you can kind of apply that how your team should be able to use the tool. So if you see today, the development velocity is so high, and it's not just today, it has been much higher than what you can do the testing for security. And this results from check marks recently came out that showing that 60% of our organizations has been releasing code at least once per week. And with now AI-driven tools and coding assistants, people are doing even much faster, right? And 75% or less of them are doing a security testing less than once per month, or maybe like more kind of with a gap. There are customers who does like pen testing like once or twice per year. And especially the pen testing takes multiple weeks of time, as I'm sure you have seen it, that it takes several weeks to complete for your application. And it can cost thousands of dollars for every cycle. So the challenge is today's traditional tools has significant blind spot. It's looking at your application security at a particular phase. For example, like I'm showing here that the security testing for the static code analyzer tools that analyzing your code but does not know about runtime. And not only runtime, it doesn't know about configuration, business logic, and it might be providing a lot of false positives. If you look at your dynamic application testing tools, those looking at the runtime, but missing out that what lines of the code it has the issues. And I'm sure most of you have been familiar with these tools and have been using in your application. Then there is a set of tools for the composition analysis that look at the open source, the SCA, look at the open source and third-party dependencies that your code has, and particularly giving reports for what level of missing or the vulnerabilities already out there, and your code might be missing it. If you remember some of the recent examples like the Heartbleed from the OpenSSL one, had that challenge few years ago, right? So multiple larger companies had challenges. So those kind of tooling actually has in place and can, but each of these, what I'm trying to show, including the pen test now, and the pen test is also coming in a very specific time and it's time consuming. So each of these are very isolated, and that's causing a major problem that you are missing many of the security incidents and vulnerabilities back to your production. So what we need is a fundamental, separate, different approach so that it can be more continuous, it can be more like context aware, as well as like it can be much more continuous to do this security testing. So what we recently came up with this AWS Security Agent, along with 3 other frontier agents in AWS. And these will work in tangent together to provide you a holistic approach. As you can see, Kiro is giving you the AI-powered development assistant and coding assistant, whereas DevOps agent is for your like an SRE agent. It's like for your incident management, root cause analysis, and what's going on in production, so you can quickly figure out where the challenges are. And the security agent, that's what we are going to dive deep today, that will give you this kind of proactive application security throughout your entire life cycle. So let's look at how AWS Security Agent works along with your development team and continuously validates. So here are those three primary capabilities that the security agent is bringing to you. The very first one is the AI-powered pen testing, and that combines those isolated tools that you were looking at in the previous slide with your static code analysis or dynamic testing, or even third-party dependency testing. And it's providing you autonomous pen testing in a single solution. And secondly, it actually making you a much more context-aware. It actually allows you to connect your design documents, user stories, infrastructure as code, your IAC coding, your threat models, your runtime behavior, all of those you can provide in the background so that the pen testing it is doing it not just based on industry best practices, it's context aware, right? And finally, it's giving you verified findings. And when I say verified findings, basically every vulnerability it reports actually has a reproducible exploit given to it, so that the number of false positives will be very less compared to what your traditional tools have been generating, that your developer has to go through the false positives that, hey, this doesn't really matter for us. If you see what really makes this possible, all of these for security agent, behind the scene, the foundation is on Amazon Bedrock Agent Core. And if you have seen Agent Core, it's the AWS's enterprise-grade platform for multi-agent orchestration and regioning. So what that means to customer in respect to the security agent, it basically not just like doing the checks for you or simple checks that looking at, okay, what it matches or what doesn't. It actually reasoning based on the findings and trying to match with your context and the design docs and all of those behind the scene you provided, and trying to provide you a contextual report that makes more sense to you. All right, so let's look at that how it's doing you for the across the SDLC. So previously, as you have seen, that for the developers, we're getting like the SAST tools, developers were doing in the coding side, whereas your testing was doing some of that testing, as well as in the final runtime and deployment, you were doing the pen testing. But now, security agent is actually doing across the development life cycle, not at some specific checkpoints. And it is also giving you the context-aware intelligence and enterprise-ready kind of a solution. So the good news is the security agent is now generally available, and the pen testing is fully available with the general availability. The other two pillars we have, part of the security agent is the design review and the design agent, and there is a code review agent. Those are still in preview, but available to all of you pretty much to use at this point. The pen testing one has a free tier available for 200 task hours per month for the first 2 months. So it's ready for give it a try and try it out. So if you see the details that how it delivers these capabilities, the very first pillar it is trying to do is the design review. And that's where the security agent is basically evaluating your design documents, infrastructure as code, threat models, as I was talking, that this basically finding your vulnerabilities in the environment, in the code, and your runtime based on your context and the application details. The second one is the code review, and currently it's the GitHub integration is available. There are a roadmap coming up for other source code repositories as well, but this is where you have your code integrated to GitHub and the security agent. So every pull request, you can do a source code analysis through this. And finally, it's the pen testing that's measured in hours, not in weeks. So how many hours you are using the tool and it takes. And previously, like I was saying, that in average, it was taking 3 to 6 weeks. It can be done in few hours. And that will give you a tailored and multi-step attack scenarios in more context to your application code and user stories and things like that. So now, this is the pen testing I was trying to say that discovers the vulnerabilities throughout the multi-step processes in your environment. And it's available, you can actually run your code, whether it's in AWS or some other hybrid cloud providers. Your applications can be all of them there, but you can still do the pen testing for all of your application, irrespective of the cloud provider. This is another detail that basically design review is giving this potential to evaluate your application designs, as I was talking, in code review and the penetration testing. In the console, you can kind of enable any of those or all three of them, and it's pretty easy to get you started. So now I'll hand over to Sandeep, who will go through much deeper to show you that how it's being done.
Yeah. Thanks, Manas. Yeah, so what we felt was the best way to understand this tool is to just get a little bit hands-on. And I'm going to walk you through, just to show how easy it is to set it up and get going. Very much different from the traditional tools that you have been used to. So the very first thing you do, when you get to use a security agent, is to first define your security requirements. So what are security requirements? So they are basically, think of them as a formal definition of your security controls and their policies that your application must satisfy during the code review, design review, and your penetration testing. And there are two key elements here. If you look at it, this is a definition of a policy. One is this applicability. What that means is, why is this important? Why does this control matter? And then there is a compliance criteria, which basically says that, what does the application need to do to be compliant with this requirement, right? And right out of the gate, you get 10 managed security requirements, which are based on AWS best practices. Things like authorization best practices, authentication best practices, logging, and different policies that AWS has developed for you. But what it also does is there are also a way to create your custom policies. So custom policies are something which is unique to your organization, or it could be something that is not already covered by AWS. And so you can go and create your custom policies. And what's the cool thing about this one is you just define your policies in natural language. Say, this is what I really want to do. No syntax required, no policy as code, no regexes. Really, just define it and save it. Then the LLM driving this, under the covers would understand what to do. So once you're done with the security requirements, you can choose which ones you want to, use as your template or as your scope for your security analysis, or you can choose both from AWS and your custom requirements as well. So the next thing is just to look at design review. And design review is something that you do even before a single line of code is written. So essentially, you can just drag and drop your documents, your design documents, your specification documents, your threat models, architecture diagrams, whatever. Just drag and drop it to the security agent service, and it will pick it up from there. So this is an example, as I'm sure many of you use things like coding agents or things like, where it already creates this design, like spec-driven requirements. It creates the specification documents and also an architecture diagram. So this is just an example that I created just to illustrate how easy it is to get going with this. You can ask Kiro to generate this one, but this is another tool like similar to Kiro, agent-driven, where you just describe like, hey, this is what I'm building. Here is my source code. Can you generate an architecture diagram from it? So it's another think of it as a tool that we have built and plugged into Kiro. But I'm sure there are like a lot of different variants of this one. So it will dynamically generate this architecture diagram for you. And once you are done with that, so within minutes, you get a result of all the vulnerabilities that were found. So here is an example. What you get is a description of that, what was the flaw, and also some remediation guidance. Or you can just choose to download the entire report. Next one. So next we come to the code review. So as Manas said, you can analyze your code. It can integrate with GitHub. So the first thing you do is connect your security agent to your GitHub account. And it gets installed as an app. And once it gets installed as an app, it gets, it hooks into the GitHub workflows. So any kind of notifications like pull requests, merge requests, you get notified about that. And right at that moment, the analysis kicks in. So this is what you'll see once you have connected it. So these are some of my repos in GitHub. You can pick one or more repos that you want to analyze. Then select what you want to do with that. Do a full review or a review along with the CVE exposures. So this is an example. So once you get a pull request, so it gets analyzed right away, and you get notified right within GitHub. So exactly points out which line was where it found the security issue. Then it gives you a description of that, and also gives you some guidance how to go and remediate that. So this one was something about RSA algorithm, kind of an algorithm, switching algorithm that it found. Here is another example. It found a CVE vulnerability. I think this one was about input validation, where the security controls can be bypassed by an attacker. The last part of this one was the penetration testing, which we talked about. So another thing you can do is pen tests. That's also very simple. As you can see, all you need to do is configure one or more target URLs for your application. And then you can pick which security aspects of tests you want to do, or you can disable some of those. And this includes the OWASP top 10 and a few more. So another thing, what makes it different is, the context awareness of this, solution of this feature. So along with that, what you can also do is, give it more resources, like links to your GitHub repos, your design documents, so the same things that you use for your design reviews. You can give that to the pen test agent, which can then craft this attacks that is kind of relevant to your source code. So this is the key part. It's not a generic black box testing, but more kind of in tune, how your application behaves and what the possible flaws are. And you can run as many of those. So pen testing has always, if you have gone through that process, it's both expensive and time consuming. And typically, you get to one or two of those, but as you know, in this agentic world, people are churning out code way faster than humans are doing. So way more applications, a lot more patches, and what happens most of the time is, just because of lack of resources or budget, you don't go through a full, pen test. But what this enables you to do is to do pen tests on demand. You can literally do it for every push, you do, or every commit that is required. And here is an example that I've run a few of those, and you can remediate based on your requirements. So at the end of the pen test, you get a very comprehensive report. This is the entire dashboard. Shows you whatever was found, and you can drill down to each one of them. And here is an example. So it tells you what the vulnerability was, gives you a description of that, steps to reproduce it, and a risk reasoning. But one more cool thing that it does is, you can optionally go and remediate that code. And if you do that, so a security agent would go remediate that code and give you that remediation as a pull request that you can directly merge within GitHub. So this is optional. You can review it, but you might choose to do your own. So that was pretty much it. Just to show how to get started. There's very little barriers to go and adopt this tool. And of course, you get a full detailed pen testing report that you can hand over to your auditors, your compliance departments, or your AppSec group. So just to, as I said, easiest way to get started is to get your hands dirty. So what we have done is, created a repo which has sample applications with design docs and specification documents and architecture diagrams that you can go and test it. So feel free to go download that and take it for a spin. So that's all I had. Happy to take any questions.
Is this targeted the web applications? We actually have mobile apps backed by backends. So in that case, if the vulnerability is in the interface between the two, will you be able to handle these cases?
So the way it will work is if you can to use your web app, can you if you can construct that as target URLs or API paths, that would be possible. So right now this is the support that you have, and as I said, it's still under it's not released as yet. It's in preview. So more features will be coming, but what you could do is if you could construct your app to be addressed through URLs or custom headers, HTTP headers, that should work.
Yeah, practically you can use it for your Xcode repository, and it should be able to give you the source code side of the analysis. And as Sandeep said, that if you have a target endpoint where the app is deployed, it should be able to do the pen testing.
You can specify as many as you want, to each API path. You could also go and filter, hey, don't test these paths. So all that flexibility you have.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and it can be anywhere. It doesn't need to be on AWS. It could be in other clouds, your own private data centers, doesn't matter.
I have question for the design review, and basically I think that is work by input any text to the AI, right? What I mean is, can it recognize Terraform or CloudFormation like that?
The design review and the code reviews.
I don't know. Is it?
So what do you want to do with Terraform? That's basically your deployment script, right?
Yes.
So yeah, it can find flaws in Terraform, but that you do during your, mostly I would do it in my design phase or maybe during my code reviews. So in that step you could, if you're if you build a solution, then you say I can ask Hero, hey, generate a YAML file for me for a CloudFormation template. I haven't tried with Terraform, but I guess that should be possible, right? So once you have that, you can take it through a design review or through a code review, and you can also upload that as a additional learning resource during a pen tests, which the agent would go and factor in. It will find out what resources you're deploying. Is it secure? Do you have the policies or what do you call them, security groups or whatever in place? Yes. So short answer is yes, it can do it.
Okay, thank you.
My question is, what services are you guys using behind
Under the covers?
under the covers?
So generally this it's a completely an agentic-driven service.
Right.
So it uses agent core which hosts it. It also uses LLMs, but we don't know what it is. AWS doesn't tell us. We can guess, but so it uses that, and a lot of other stuff. It would be native AWS services. But is there anything you are particularly interested in?
Yeah, because we are on AWS and we use Bedrock and OpenSearch.
Right.
And some elements for on the document side. So we currently use those services.
Right.
Especially to give the context and everything. So I was curious if the same services are being used for contextual information and all that.
Most likely. It would be AWS services, but then there are services that are public and there are services that are internal. But mostly it would be AWS services.
I was talking briefly that behind the scene it is using agent code.
Okay.
So you actually get some of the positive sides of agent code, that your policy engines and the permissions management, all of those you can get out of
All the agent code primitives in that sense, like which includes a runtime, which includes the identity, and of course, like the agent could be strands or anything else.
Got it. And does it also have, like, in future, or because this is previous, I was curious about A2A communication, like say there's an enterprise customer who's currently using some form of agent which is non-AWS related, right? So, but they would like to send something to the security agent. Is there through MCP or some gateway they can have some communication?
So A2A is supported within agent core. Like, that's like, it's part of that, service. Whether it is integrated, like that is not available today, but, maybe in the future. But hey, I mean, if you have a requirement, like, there are publics, there are methods where you can give your requirements to AWS and it will be picked up. But yeah, not directly, I haven't seen that, but agent code itself supports A2A. So enabling that capability should not be hard.
Okay. Just one more question.
Sure.
Is the agent integrated with, MCP server?
Yes.
Okay.
Agents, yes. All of them have like that capability.
Yeah, great to hear that.
But that capability is not exposed though. So under the covers, it must be doing it. It must be like, if you upload a document, like say I uploaded a PDF file which shows an architecture diagram, right? So it might like use an MCP server under the covers to go look at documents or whatever other tech material is there to do this analysis, but it's not directly exposed within Security Hub at this point in time.
Have the security agent functionality, or let me ask another way, that has your security agent found the problem from the code generated from your coding agent?
Yes, all the time. Like, see, think of the coding agents, they're not deterministic, right? I mean, it's very much possible it will find, like, if I'm doing vibe coding or spec-driven coding, so it will do exactly what I tell it to do, unless I tell him, hey, generate this code which is also secure, right? So, short answer is yes, there's a high probability it will find, like, security flaws in the code that Kiro generated, for example, right? So, yes, it will. You can, of course, go and tell it, like, go and remediate this, fix it, it will go and fix it, but the chances are yes, it will.
One more question, maybe. We have to wrap up for the...
Yeah, we can take this. One more, or we're good. So, I mean, you have a contacts. Feel free to reach us. Like, the emails are there. Like, happy to answer any questions offline. Thank you.